What's up, guys? Classy Metal here. I said I was going to get this video done before the end of the year. Looks like I'm going to make it. Have a few hours left to go in 2017, so going to make it. Proud of myself for that. There was a time where I thought this wasn't going to get made on time, but I made it. As a YouTuber, this tends to be one of my favorite times of the year. I enjoy watching other YouTubers' end of the year lists and their top album lists, EP lists, all that good stuff. I tend to only do a top 20 releases of the year. I keep EPs, everything, just a standard top 20 releases. And this year was the first year that I really wanted to expand that past 20. 2017 was such a strong year for heavy metal, for extreme music in general, that I felt like I'm really limiting myself when I only do a top 20. But that's all I put in for was a top 20. It's worked well the last 2 years that I've done these videos, so I'm going to stick with it. That being said, there were a few albums that I hated leaving off of this list. Cannibal Corpse in particular, that it pained me way more than it should have to leave that album off of this list. But there was nothing in this list that I felt comfortable omitting or taking out and putting it in its place. Cannibal Corpse, I wanted that in there. Sorrow Plagues, the newest Moonspell, all three of those were very strong releases. I wish I had room in this list for them. There's probably some others that I can't think of just off the top of my head. As I get into this list, I just want to say, first of all, that this is my list. This is not your list. There are going to be things in here that you disagree with, and I respect that, and I'm okay with that. I'm only putting things in this list that I own on a physical format. So if there's something that I'm missing from this list that you feel like should definitely be on this, it could simply be because I didn't have the funds or the means to get that on a physical format yet. So therefore, it won't be on this list. Or it could just be that I didn't like the album as much as you did. That's a definite possibility as well. As I said, I'm doing a top 20. This is my list, and we're just going to get right into this. First up, we have a release from Transcending Records on as number 20. This is a Monolith Cult with their release Gospel of Despair. This is a very strong step forward for Monolith Cult, from a step up, I would say, from their 2013 release entitled Run from the Light. I have myself a few little notes made down here, so if you see me glancing down, that's what I'm doing, because I don't want to just get lost, and all that good stuff as I tend to do sometimes. I'm trying to keep this as concise as possible so this video doesn't just go on forever. As I said, this is a UK doom metal outfit. Very old school doom metal sound. They have a kind of a Candlemass meets Black Sabbath sound, which I guess is a bit generic to say because almost all doom metal bands at some point or another have a Black Sabbath sound. Fantastic release, very lumbering, morose, slow tracks to this. Not just too terribly long on the track times. One complaint that I've heard from that album is it's a bit monotone, and I can see why that would bother some people. For me, that release, each song kind of stands on its own, as its own, I guess I would call it a musical journey. So the monotone sound to it doesn't really bother me as much as it has others, but a fantastic release nonetheless. I'm going to put, in the description, I'm going to put links to all of these so you can check them out. If I can find links for the albums, I'll do a full album stream or whatever I can find, so you guys check this out, because that's kind of the whole point of these lists, is for you to find stuff maybe that you missed along the way of the year, and I want you to find stuff that I love, and hopefully you will return that admiration for the work of art. At number 19, we have the newest release from Sons of Crom. This is entitled The Black Tower. Sons of Crom is an international project. I believe it's a two-member band, two-member outfit. I believe one's in Sweden and the other is in Finland. I think that's right. This was released on Nordvis Productions. I bought this through the Bind Room web shop earlier this year. Bind Room does all of the, I guess, the U.S. distribution for Nordvis. So, fantastic release. If you haven't checked out Sons of Crom, they're kind of an epic heavy metal, kind of a Bathory meets Manila Road sound. It's very interesting, very intriguing sound on this. Very epic sounding heavy metal. Definitely can't recommend this one enough if you haven't checked this out. Their 2014 release, Riddle of Steel, was a very strong release as well. Perhaps a little bit better than this one, but nonetheless, this is a fantastic release. So definitely check that out. At number 18, I have to thank the Metalhead box for this. I got this in a Metalhead box earlier in the year, and somehow I'd missed this band all along. This band has been around for a while, and they're a pretty popular death metal band. I don't know how I missed them leading up to that point, but I can't thank the Metalhead Box enough for introducing me to this band. I'm talking about the Dark Descent release from Undergank, or Undergank, however you choose to pronounce it. This is entitled Misanthropology. As I said, they're a death metal outfit out of Denmark. Undergank has an old school death metal sound, very doom-ridden death metal. Fantastic stuff. There's so much variation just between tracks that just kind of captivates you in an album and keeps your attention all the way through. So definitely check that out if you haven't. That's Undergang, or Undergang, however you choose to pronounce that, with Misanthropology. Number 17. This is a German atmospheric, I guess, post-black metal band. This is Reich with their release Join the Wind. This is released on a German label that I will butcher if I try to pronounce it. Geisterrush label. Yeah, as I said, I'm going to butcher that. It's atmospheric black metal / post-black metal. Has some death metal elements in this as well, which is very unusual with that post-black sound. This was released in January, and it just stuck with me all year long. I love the artwork on that as well. I believe this CD was limited to 100 copies, so if you missed out on the physical format, you'll probably have to settle for a digital at this point. At number 16, we have Legacy of Emptiness with their newest release entitled Over the Past. Have to thank Oliver at Blackline Records for sending me this. I was amazed. This is a Norwegian symphonic black metal. Fantastic stuff. This is the second album from Legacy of Emptiness under that banner. The members were in another band prior to this, and they split from that band and formed Legacy of Emptiness, and you can tell that they're seasoned musicians on that album. It's just a fantastic symphonic black metal. Definitely check that out if you haven't. Number 15, we have November's Doom. They're just pretty much kings of the death doom genre. The name of this album is Hamartia, I believe that's how you pronounce that, which by definition is a fatal flaw leading to the downfall of a tragic hero or heroine. Very fitting album title. After I looked up the definition of that as I was listening to it, I found it to be very fitting. November's Doom is out of Chicago here in the U.S. Just flawless production, flawless death doom. Two of the standout tracks for me on this were Ghost and Waves in the Red Cloth. Fantastic release. I don't have to speak too much about November's Doom because if you're watching this, I'm sure you know who November's Doom are, and there's no surprises on that album for you. At number 14, we have a French atmospheric doom metal project. I can never pronounce the name of this band. It's Ixion, Ixion is how you spell it. The name of this album is Return. This was released this year on Finisterian Dead End. It's a modern, I guess I would call it a modern atmospheric doom metal album. There's this very modern sound that's so popular now in post-black metal, anything with tons of atmospheres in it. Just a few moments listening to this album, and what I'm saying right now will completely make sense to you. This band released probably one of my top 5 favorite albums of all time back in 2011, entitled To the Void. This is another fantastic release. Obviously, it's not that high up in my loving of their material, but it's a great album nonetheless, and I hope you check it out. I'm going to flip my cheat sheet over, and at number 13, we have When Bitter Spring Sleeps with Star Throne. This was released on Pagan Flames Productions. This is an ambient atmospheric black metal project out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, of all places. I said this was on Pagan Flames. I was a bit surprised with how much I love this. The last time that I really heard anything from When Bitter Spring Sleeps, they were doing like field recordings, just nature recordings, and then putting their black metal, and there's, well, his black metal, Lord Sardonyx is the one man behind this project, and he's always had an apt to do his own thing, a bit of originality. This is no different. The vocals on this are some of the better black metal vocals that I've heard in a very long time. So much originality behind this. I can only describe it as kind of a space chant. Sometimes I listen to like Gregorian chant and that type stuff just to kind of unwind and relax. There's layers and layers of vocals on this. It's clean vocals with a black metal musicianship going, but the cleans are more of a chanting style, and it sounds like space monks. That's the only way I could. The chants are his vocals are layered. You have trouble understanding their cleans, but you can't make out the words. Very fitting for black metal. Very original concept. Phenomenal release. Definitely check that out. If you're into any kind of ambient black metal or atmospheric black metal, I cannot urge you enough to go check that out. My mouth's getting dry, but we're going to march right on through this. At number 12, we have another Black Line Records release. This is Frowning with Extinct. This is Funeral Doom. This is another one-man project, actually. This is a Funeral Doom project out of Germany. Germany is represented on this list quite well. There's already been a couple, and there's going to be some more before it's over with from Germany. The production clarity with the heaviness on this album makes it just a monolith of a Funeral Doom. This stayed in my truck for months after I received this, and it just stayed continuous with no interruptions. Fantastic, crushing, heavy Funeral Doom. They had a 2014 release entitled Funeral Impressions. This may top that in my book. This is a just fantastic release. Number 11, my second favorite death metal album of the year. For a while, this was my favorite death metal album of the year. This is Emulation with Atonement. Emulation, when I think of Emulation and their style of death metal, solid is the only way I can think of it. They're masters at their craft. This is the best release, in my opinion, that they've put out since Majesty and Decay. I believe that was in 2010 when that came out. Atonement is just not overly technical, but the craftsmanship, that's the only word that I can think of. It's just a phenomenal. Thrown to the Fire, Above All, are two of the top standout tracks for me, but this entire album, if you're into death metal, you gotta love that release. Number 10, this was a band that actually appeared on my list last year as well. And this may be a step up from their album last year, in my opinion. It is a definite continuation, if nothing else. This is Mavrodoxa with Lethean Lament. This is a band out of Rochester, New York. I believe it is a two-person project, but I could be wrong on that. Atmospheric black metal. They describe themselves a bit as Laurentian black metal. It's atmospheric black. It has dashes of doom in it as well. It has some Agalloch worship. It's fantastic. In my mind, I think of this as springtime metal. Their release last year entitled Sojourners put me like in a state of frozen, just grim frozen ice. And this is a like springtime album to bring you out of that frozen state. Has some doomy, folky type stuff, some Agalloch worship, but a fantastic release nonetheless. Mavrodoxa, Lethean Lament. Definitely check that one out if you haven't, if you slept on that. The next one I have to thank Brain Smasher, Ben over at Brain Smasher's channel. This is a band that has released a ton of material, and I had never heard of any of it until I took his recommendation and checked this out. At number 9, we have Common Cantata with Rautama. I'm sorry if I butchered that. I want you to get a good look at that artwork, because that artwork is what really, between his recommendation and that artwork, I just knew that I was going to love this. This is a band from Finland. They play a traditional style of black with it's got atmospherics in it. Just a traditional black metal. It's on Wolf Spell Records. Some notes that I took for this. I'm just going to have to read these off the paper because I don't want to get this wrong. Cold, harsh, uninviting black metal, harmonious riffs, doomy soundscapes, and a broad viciousness that just molds itself into one mirthless black metal cocktail. That's my notes I took on that. I knew I butchered if I tried to speak that from memory, but fantastic release, fantastic black metal album. Kind of has a second wave of black metal sound. Fantastic stuff. Check that out. Number 8, my favorite death metal album from 2017. This is Khazad-dûm with Plagues Upon Arda. I've been speaking the praises of this album for about as long as I've had this release. The band had a strong EP in 2015, in Dwarven Halls was the name of that. This is a huge step up from that EP. There is some straight up Nile worship on this at times. I will not lie about that. But I love Nile, so I'm not mad about that. It's brutal death metal, and it's all Tolkien themed. It's all about dwarves, and it's fantastic. You can picture yourself in a battle, a raging battle going on, and the dwarves within Khazad-dûm fighting, and it's just a constant battle, killing ogres, everything. It's fantastic. This is the self-released by the band version. I believe there's still some of these available on Bandcamp, but I could be wrong on that. They have signed with Black Market Metal Label, which is another fantastic. They put out some killer releases this year as well. So definitely check that out and pick that up because I don't think you will be disappointed. There's a song, "The Black Hand of Gorthor," I believe is how you pronounce that. Definitely probably my favorite track from that album. Looking forward to seeing where the progression of that band goes from that release. Sorry, I've had Sonic, as you can see before this, and it's beating me up all over the place. But we're at number 7, and we're gonna keep suffering through. We're too far in to stop now. At number 7, we have Italian depressive atmospheric black metal band. I've spoke very highly of this band already this year on this channel. This is Afraid of Destiny with their release Agony. As I said, it's depressive atmospheric black metal out of Italy. Try to get you a look that's a bit kind of dark artwork on that. Metal Archives, under the lyrical themes for this band, the lyrical themes were just listed as suicide, depression, solitude, and self-harm. Very fitting. I couldn't find anything to add to that, anything better. That's what you're getting. It's depressive black metal. You know what you're getting into. The redo of Hatred Towards Myself that's on this, they redid it from that to their from their EP to the full length. Fantastic. I love the remake of it. Also, Sweet Illness of Mine. They did a Life Lover cover on this release as well. Fantastic stuff. Definitely check that out. Number 6, we have one that's I've seen album of the year from a few people already. This is the Ruins of Everest with Exuvia. This is another album out of Germany. As I was saying, Germany hit this list pretty hard this year. Black metal has doom elements in this as well. This was released on, I believe, Von is how you pronounce that. It's got this Native American theme throughout this release. It's kind of there's layers and layers and layers of depth and soundscapes on this album. It is so much to take in. It is an experience in itself just listening to this album. The layers and layers of depth, they bring almost especially with the Native American theme, you get this real ritualistic type vibe from it. That it works so well. Had this not been such a strong year, I could have seen that easily being in the top 5, perhaps at some point number 1. Had I spent a little bit more time with it, it very likely could have moved up this list, but that one was pretty new to me as far as being in my collection. but I've fallen absolutely in love with it in the time that I've had it. Moving on to number 5, we have some Romanian black metal. This is a band titled Argos Magee, I believe is how you pronounce it. This is and the name of this album is VI. This was released on Loud Rage Music this year, and there's some Nagura Bunget worship on this. Definitely some Nagura, if not worship, some very strong influence from Nagura Bunget, and it has some very extreme atmospheres. It's it has some very surprising melodies in the riffage. This was not an album that, upon first listening, that I expected to be this high on the end of the year list. This is not one. When I first listened to it, I was like, well, this is pretty good, not too bad, and I'm going to move on and finish that album out, and then I'm going to move on because I got a fairly large stack of albums when I picked that up. I kept finding myself returning to it over and over, and then after I took the Frowning album out of my truck, I was looking for something to kind of fill that void there, and I had to take this out today to make this video. It has stayed in there that long, and it's played non-stop. If I put an album for the sheer number of listens that I've heard it as number 1, this would be it. So just that goes to show how much I've listened to that already this year. At number 4, we have Nocturnal Mortem with Verity. I'm not even going to try to... The name of the album is in Russian, but translated into Verity. There we go. As far as artwork and presentation alone goes, this would be album of the year. I have to take my hat off to Oriana Music and Nocturnal Mortem just for the packaging of this. I will show this. I mean, that booklet is huge. I haven't been showing all the packaging, but the artwork on this alone was phenomenal. The album itself does not disappoint after seeing the artwork. It's kind of Nocturnal Mortem. I know you probably already know them if you're watching this video. You've already seen them in several people's videos already. They're a folky, pagan black metal band out of the Ukraine. Ukraine has that, pretty much has that folky, pagan, black sound on point. There's so much from that just general area that is so good. Nocturnal Mortem, one of the forerunners of that sound. One thing about Nocturnal Mortem, they're not afraid to experiment with their sound a little bit. Each of their albums sounds a little bit different than the other, and you get something new and original on each album. And the folky, I guess I want to say fluty, folky type stuff that's on this. And it's much more folky than some of the predecessor albums from Nocturnal Mortem, but it made that album stand alone within their discography, and it's a fantastic release. Definitely check that out if you haven't. Next up at number 3, we have a band that's out of my home state here in Tennessee in the U.S. This is Loss with Horizonless. Fantastic funeral doom / death metal band. This they don't have a bad release in their discography whatsoever. For me, this easily could have worked its way up. My top 3 were all a toss-up. This is another one that has been listened to just so many times. Just from the opening track, the joy of all who sorrow. This album just kind of captures you. I want you to get a good look at that artwork as well, if you can. Like I said, I'm fighting that glare. And just from the joy of all who sorrow, all the way to when death is all. I mean, you're just gripped by this. It strangles you with the heaviness, and it doesn't let you go. Fantastic release. Definitely check that out. That's Lost, Horizonless, and that was released on Profound Lore Records. 2 left, and we're going to wrap this up. At number 2, we have another atmospheric black metal band. This is out of Russia. This is a band that I thought was going to be my album of the year until I heard what's going to be my album of the year. But this is another one that's been a front runner all year long. This is Gramma with Tales of the Enchanted Woods. This was released on Nocturnal Productions. I've mentioned them several times on this channel before. They don't really put out bad material at all. If you see that Nocturnal Productions logo on the back of an album, you can tell right then that you're in for a treat and you're in for some quality stuff. As I was saying, this is atmospheric black metal out of Russia. More folky type stuff. It has folky atmospheric passages in it that it's just straight up nature worship, and I could see this being a look back, like years from now, look back upon as just a classic in the atmospheric black metal genre. Usually, when you look back at certain things like Elder Wind, um, my mind's failing me right now. I'm 25 minutes into this video, but there are classics, and that one for me is a definite standout in that genre. At number 1, this is a non-Servium Records release. Pretty much from the moment I heard this album, I knew that I was listening to something special, and I knew that this could very well be my album of the year. As the year went on, the listens to this didn't go away. I kept finding myself returning to this and enjoying this album as much as I did on the previous listen. This is some melodic black metal. I know that will turn some people off, but it didn't turn me off. I loved it. This is a band that deliberately focused on the aesthetics of their material. It's the album is structured perfectly. There's passages of just blistering black metal mixed with melodic black metal that lead way into folky kind of Nordic folk, and there's a straight up Nordic folk song in the middle of this. But the flow of the album, they're able to mix these elements so well, and the album just flows that it just makes you crave more and more. The timing structures are just perfect. Nothing drags on too long. It stops just when just in time for you to keep craving more. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Fantastic release. If I was going to put a monocle, or whatever you call it, or a banner on an album for a perfect album of this year, this would be as close as I could possibly get to that. This is Wormwood with Ghostlands, Wounds from a Bleeding Earth. Fantastic, fantastic, superb. Any other great word I could put for this, I could put there. Amazing release. If you don't take anything else from this video, go check this out. It's melodic black metal out of Stockholm, Sweden, and I promise you, if you're into any type of folky black metal, melodic black metal, you're going to love that album probably as much as I do. That's all I've got for my top 20. I hope you enjoyed this list. I'm interested to hear what you guys liked as well. If there's something you think I left out or I need to check out that maybe I haven't checked out from this year, feel free to put that in the comments. Let me know what you think of this list. I will be announcing the giveaway winner tomorrow, and I started an Instagram. I will link that in the description as well. Feel free to go follow me there. Thank you guys for a wonderful year here, and I look forward to seeing you all in 2018. Stay classy.